guys, welcome to Copy Editing. I'm Dr. Cowart. I think I actually know most of you, but for those of you who I don't know, I am originally from Tennessee. I came here from the University of Florida. I have been working as a professor for about 10 years, and before that I was a reporter. And when I was working as a reporter, I worked as a copy editor. So I know some of you guys took this class without having necessarily, without knowing what copy editing is. You sign up for the class because you need the credit hours, and you're like, I've had a couple people ask me, like, what exactly is copy editing? So let me just tell you what I did when I worked as a copy editor. Essentially, what that job was I would get the stories from the reporter, and once I had a story, I would look for AP style errors, grammar, spelling errors, factual errors, things that could be checked, that needed to be like names and that sort of thing. And then I would look at the lead and make sure the lead was the best lead it could possibly be. And then I didn't do this, but some copy editors have to write headlines and then also captions, which is the cut lines for photos. So essentially for me, it was a part-time job that was in addition to being a reporter. But plenty of people work as copy editors as their full-time job. Plenty of people do it online completely, like they don't even go into an office anywhere. They just get sent the stuff and work as copy editors. I would say that's becoming more common. But working as a copy editor just basically means that you are someone who is able to weed out the problems. And for this class, it really means that you're able to learn to find those things that are problematic. And for me, it really means that you're able to learn to find those things that are problematic in your own writing. Because what I want you to take away from this is not necessarily that you're going to get a job as a copy editor, which great if you do, or in my case, that was extra money for me. That was just like, hey, you've got a job as a reporter, here's another job to make some extra money on the side. So that's just a good deal there. But I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen, for one of you guys. It may, but it may just be the case that this makes you better able to communicate in whatever work you do, or, in whatever situation you are sending emails, and you need to be able to write effectively. Like that sort of level of communication is one where the grammar and spelling in this, grammar really, in AP style in this class are going to come into, play. So basically, the ability to use commas correctly, let's use that example, is something that in this class you would learn and you would then use forever for everything you write. You never use commas wrong again. How great would that be, right? Okay, so hopefully that's going to be the case for you. Let me tell you basically what we're going to do, and then I'm going to pull up the syllabus and kind of just walk us through it. And we're not going to do videos like this each week, I'll tell you that right now. We're actually not going to do videos like this again. I'm not very, very good at these videos. This takes like 10 tries just to get like a decent take for me. I don't know how you guys do this in Deed's class. It's actually really hard. Not that I didn't think it was really hard before, but this is really hard. I haven't done it in a while. Okay, so what we're doing in this class is each week we're covering roughly about 5 chapters. So I've got it split up into weeks for the summer class. A lot of times you see it split up into modules. I've just split it up into weeks because that makes more sense for me. So we've got 4 weeks. Each of the 4 weeks has roughly 5 chapters in it that we're covering. But don't worry, the chapters are not, text heavy chapters. They're mostly full of examples of each thing that you're learning, okay? You do have to read them. So you do, and you definitely have to have the book. There's no way you can take this class without the book, because that's where the exercises are coming from, and so that's where the information to do the exercises is coming from. So you've got that. You've got the chapters that you have to look at because you're going to need them to do the exercises that correspond with the chapters. So chapters and exercises, then an AP style quiz each week. So 4 total AP style quizzes. You get 2 shots to take it, meaning you can take it once. It'll tell you how much you got wrong. You can take it again. And then a discussion post each week, okay? We'll talk about what that is in here in a minute when we look at the syllabus. So that's kind of basically what we're talking about. There's a final, which I'll also talk about when we look at the syllabus. And that's essentially all that you have for this class, okay? So the big chunk of it is the exercises that you do each week. All right, let's move to the syllabus. Okay, Looking at the syllabus, I just want to point out that I don't have any office hours in the summer. I'm not in like the office regularly, but if anybody needs to meet, I am in Statesboro, so I can do that. Or if you're not in Statesboro, we can Skype. The best way to reach me is via email. I do respond quickly to email. I don't respond to this phone number because that's also my office. So let me also mention the textbook. You definitely need to get the textbook. If you don't have an AP style book, you need one of those. You can get one used pretty cheaply. And as far as your course requirements, basically here are the things that you'll be doing each week: your exercises, your quizzes, and your discussion board. And then at the end of the semester, your final, your time trial. I want to point out that your chapter exercises are 53% of your grade. So of the 380 points that you have that make up your grade, 200 of those points are these exercises. And I point that out largely because of the fact that it's really easy in 4 weeks to miss out on something, to forget or whatever, have something come up and miss either a chapter exercise or an AP style quiz. And, one or two may not break you, but, several or even, 3 or 4 zeros can and will. So be very aware of the fact that these deadlines come up quickly and that you can work ahead of time. So if you have something that's going on, if you've got, like a family trip or something, hopefully you don't in the middle of the semester, but, if you do, then work ahead of time, get it done ahead of time. Largely because you can't do it after the fact in this class. I do not take late work for this class. We don't have any long, written assignments or anything like that, no papers or anything like that. So I expect things to get done on time. So just to, kind of reiterate, definitely do these assignments when they're due, okay? And get credit for them. Don't get zeros, if you are, it's almost midnight or almost 11:30, because 11:30 is when they're due. If it's almost 11:30 and, something's about to be due, then, go ahead and turn it in, even if you're not going to do great on it, rather than getting a zero, because those really hurt. Okay, sorry. Just harping on that. All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about each of these things. The AP style quizzes, a lot of you are probably used to taking these. Basically, they're 10 questions. The thing that I want to point out is that they aren't on specific chapters of the book. They're not tied to them. So if we're studying, let's say we're studying capitalization. So if we're studying capitalization, your quiz could also talk about titles and addresses. They're not necessarily tied to what we're studying. The chapter exercises I've mentioned before are kind of the foundation of this course. They're the thing that you do each week for each chapter, and sometimes you have more than one in a chapter, and basically they're the thing that is going to get you the experience with the material to help you learn what you need to learn. The time trial it's your final. It's just called the time trial because it's timed. So it's just a little fancy word. Basically, all it is taking what you've been doing with the chapter exercises, which is multiple choice questions largely, and putting them together and having, rather than individual sentences, you're editing stories. So you're editing entire chunks of text rather than individual sentences. And what I'm going to do is you're going to have an example of that before you get to the point to take the time trials. You're going to have an example that you can look at and try out to get comfortable with it. Now, the discussion boards are useful because what's going to happen with the chapter exercises is that inevitably you're going to miss, a couple of things here and there. So for each week, I want you to take whatever you have missed and write about it. Now, you don't have to write about every single thing you've missed. If you had, several things that you got wrong, you can just pick, a couple of things or one thing, even if it was something that kind of stood out as a problem for you. And what I want you to do is I want you to take the thing that you missed that, you think is most kind of important to you, and I want you to write about it. I want you to look into kind of the rule that you violated. Maybe it's AP rule, maybe it's a grammar rule, and talk about kind of what the right answer was, and maybe describe, why why you didn't understand it, how you could have, understood it better and taught it to somebody if you needed to teach it to somebody is a good way to kind of like explain that. If I had, if I were to teach this to someone now, I would tell it to them in this way. Or you could link to a video about the thing. A lot of times, a lot of grammar videos out there on YouTube that you could link to and say, here's a video that explains how you do this thing. So basically, once you post on a discussion board, then your fellow students can look at what you said and they can respond to what you said and get extra credit. And they respond by either kind of supporting what you've just said and giving more information, or maybe by correcting what you said and saying, here's something that would add to or would, kind of better exemplify what it is that you're trying to explain. So that's kind of basically what you're doing in terms of the different types of assignments. Now let me jump over here real quick on this late assignments thing. I mentioned this already, but I do want to just kind of reiterate that you can work ahead in this class. There's no restrictions to keep you from doing that. So feel free to do that. And if you do have the unforeseen, really tragic situation where you're hospitalized or some really horrible situation, where you have to miss some classes, let me know. I will say that usually if it's a situation where you have to miss more than a few classes that are an online class in a 4-week course, you're probably going to miss too much to be able to take the course. That's my experience. You can only miss so much of a 4-week course and still be on it. But I bring that up just to kind of put that in your head in terms of like, if you're thinking about, should I try to get an excuse for this sickness that I had for 2 days? Well, probably not. I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably not something that you can't do some other point in that week, right? That's the beauty and also the thing that's not so great about the online course. I mentioned briefly there that your assignments are due at 11:30, and I just want to point that out again as when you go on Folio, you'll see that everything is due at 11:30. The reason for that, I'll be honest with you guys, is just because of the fact that when we set up Folio, the last option is 11:30, and you have to handwrite in 11:59, and I just use 11:30. That's just what I do. I know that may make me sound lazy, and it's just life. It is. So now you know. So it's 11:30 and not 11:59 or midnight. I don't do midnight because people get that confused, whether I mean midnight or 12 in the middle of the day. All right, I'm down here at the schedule, kind of hanging out because I want to mention just how it's all set up. As I've said before, you're going to have a reading. In this case, chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. You're going to have exercises. This is the exercise number. This is the chapter number. Okay. Exercise number, chapter number. This is the quiz. This is the discussion. Every week pretty much looks like that. Okay. And on every week, you'll pretty much get immediate feedback on these exercises. There are a couple in this week 3, that are the leads exercise and the captions exercise that you don't get immediate feedback, that I have to go in and like actually grade them by hand because you're writing them out. So in that week, you have a couple of things that you get back from me, which takes a little longer. But everything else is pretty much immediate. So hopefully that answers your questions. I hope you're looking forward to this class. I know I am. I'm looking forward to a good semester all around. And I hope that you guys are having a good summer and being able to enjoy it a little bit. All right, let me know if you have any questions.